Mark Hill is online. Tom Duffy, Marshall Savitsky, Brian Bizanet.
He's just joined.
Let me know when he joins. Michael Maestri,
Here.
Chris Rusk, John Wigheimer,
Here.
Ron Kinsley, Ron Buckholtz,
Present.
Ed Peters.
Here.
Mr. Bizanet.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Let the record indicate we have a quorum. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Andy? Okay, let's give him Brian's. Thank you.
Okay, Madam Clerk, certification of compliance with the open meetings law, please.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Meeting agenda has been presented. Moving on to number 6, public comment. At this time, members of the public will be given the opportunity to address the board. I've got a list of participants that have filled out a form wishing to address the board. You'll have 3 minutes. I'll need you to state your name and address, please, when you come to the podium. We'll start with Tracy Lindquist, please. Tracy Lindquist.
Tracy Lindquist, 10896 W Preston Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. I'm here because I love the library. I go to the library every single week. And if you don't spend much time there, you don't realize how important it is to the community. Not just the people that live here, but the people that vacation here, the people that have second homes here, that bring their children there for story hour, to enjoy all the things the library has to offer. All the people in the community that can only get internet service at the library. Everything the library offers. I know Hayward has done very well in the last 2 or 3 summers as far as making money. So it seems absurd to me that the place that you would choose to cut or not to continue to fund would be the library, with how many people absolutely love it. I came here 18 miles, bad weather, the bucks are in rut. I was in a bad accident years ago with weather like this, but I am here to support the library and ask each and every one of you, if you have children, if you have readers, if you have people in your house that love the library, and one of the last free places we can go to spend time, to get information, please vote to continue to give them funds. You know what? It might even be wonderful if you voted to give them an extra $10,000. If
Thank
I
you.
had it, I would give it to them.
Thank you, Ms. Lindquist.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, next we have Betsy, and I'm afraid your last name, ma'am?
Betsy Stocker,
Stocker. Thank you.
16276 West Easy Street. It's not that easy either, let me tell you. We moved up, bought a cabin 18 years ago, and one of the first things I did, because I love to read, is I went into the library and said, can I get a library card? Well, do you own property? Well, yeah. Can you prove it? I'm in the phone book. It was one of the greatest days of my life. I was there when they broke ground. I'm at the library every 2 weeks. There are always people at the computers. There are always people in the children's section. There are adults there. It is very much a huge component of this community. We do have a lot of people, even if they have broadband, maybe they can't afford a computer. Every job resume now, everything's all on the computer. I think it is a great disservice to this community to cut the library funding. When you go to recruit doctors and nurses, do you have a library? It says something about our community. And I think to cut it would hurt a lot of people. So I urge you not to. Thank you.
Ms. Stocker. Okay, next I have Leslie Sullivan, please.
Leslie Sullivan, 10768 Beale Avenue, Hayward. I'm an early childhood educator. I'm a licensed teacher and I taught for 11 years before becoming a stay-at-home mom, and I moved to Hayward 1 year ago. And after I unpacked, basically the next thing I did was check out the library with my kids. Because if you don't know anyone, and we didn't know anyone, and you want to meet someone, where are you going to start when you enter a new community? So I started 2 places, St. Joseph Catholic Church and the library. And that is where those 2 places are basically where I met everyone that I know. And when I saw how beautiful the library was and the trails system behind the library, I was amazed and I really enjoyed it. But as I got to know the library better, I found them to be underfunded. I thought that the community this size, an area this size that's growing as much as it is, should be able to afford to hire a children's librarian, and they cannot. And they actually have to outsource their story time to Northwest Connections. So if they can't even afford to do things that most libraries of their size can do, then what would we want to take money from them for? Instead, give it to them. Don't take it. And we go there every week, at least once, probably more than that. And if the weather is bad, you don't want to go to the park. And sometimes you don't want to be stuck at your house. And it's one of the only free places you could take your kids.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, next we'll have Ernest Martinson, please.
Ernest Martinson, 15865 Guard Street, Hayward. In the future budgets, I would hope that you would defund the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. I know that rent seekers, like all rent seekers, they will say that they need their paws in the public purse in order to facilitate a trickle-down economy that will benefit us all, including peons. You know, a peon is a beneficiary of the trickle-down economy. I think in the future that the tourism industry should fund itself based on money taken from tourists and not from taxpayers. I am a proponent of market capitalism, but not crony capitalism, which is what you encourage when you fund the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Karen Duffy, please.
Karen Duffy, 10544 Michigan Ave in Hayward. Good evening. I'm Karen Duffy. I'm the president of the Board of Trustees for the Sherman and Ruth Wise Community Library. The county board and the community library have been partners in supporting our community for decades. And I know that the county board values its citizens. And I know that it carefully considers its budget decisions. And as a taxpayer, I truly appreciate that. Now, the county's financial support also keeps and strengthens the vital services at our library. Every dollar the Weiss Community Library spends is carefully considered. So the proposed reduction of $10,000 is a lot to us. And it also means that the community will be offered maybe something less. And in this economy and in these times, the Sawyer County residents increasingly rely on our services, and we greatly strive to meet their needs. The link between the county and the library is strong, and everything works better when we're side by side. So support for our library really is support for the people of Sawyer County. Funding the library is a reflection of the goals of our county. So I ask that you consider restoring the $10,000 to our community library budget. Together we can do great work for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Duffy. Okay, Joan, excuse me, we have to keep moving here, please. Thank you. Joan Jacobowski?
Yeah, I didn't need to speak because
because I spoke eloquently last time. I just wanted it that, right
I'll-
down that I support the library.
I'll
That's all I
read
wanted
this,
to
Joan.
say.
It says, please don't cut the library budget. The library is important.
Right.
Okay, thank you. All right, next I have Hazel John Jack, please.
Hazel John Jack, 10855A Havenwood Lane. There's two things that I'd like to add that I didn't have last time. First of all, when I don't know what his title was, the financial director said that the reason he was thinking of cutting the $10,000 was because there hadn't been a equal match from somebody. And I don't know if people really heard Molly say, she brought in $20,000 from a different person so that there was other support coming from other places. But even if there weren't, even if Molly did everything she could and couldn't get more, the library still needs certain money, whether or not there's a benefactor or not. And the second thing, I felt bad that at the very end, I said, I had a snide remark, it was good. It would be good to see more women. And I shouldn't have said that, because what I truly meant was, I think just generally, women tend to think of the whole community, not those that make money, not those that have the fanciest pickup, not those that are wanting to switch zoning laws or get a highway. To think of everybody in the community, particularly when we need the humanity of a library, the arts, and we need truth. We need a place people can go for actual truth rather than hearing propaganda from various people. If we don't learn to think, we aren't going to have democracy. And if we don't learn to care about each other, we're all going to go down. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary. Okay, Karen Malaseka, please.
Good evening. Karen Melisaka, representing Namaquagan Transit. And I was asked a question at the budget hearing by one of your board members. We had requested 25 additional $1,000 this year, and we had never asked for an increase in 11 years. We had asked the LCO tribe for 15, so that would be a total of $40,000. By what it was at the last hearing, you had given $5,000, and we do appreciate that. And we ran the numbers with that 5,000, but without the other 20,000, without the tribe 15. And we have to cut our budget this year before December 9th by $322,202. It is less money than we had last year. And the prices of everything have gone up. The cost of vehicles have doubled. From the price we used to purchase, they have over doubled. So we're buying smaller vehicles. They still are well over 100,000. We used to pay 65,000. The cost of every single item in our budget has gone up, but we are finding ourselves cutting $322,202 from our 23 budget. So we have to reduce some services, and we're doing all we can. We do have a fare increase starting January. Well, we have the rest of the meetings upcoming in a week or so, but we intend to do a fare increase. We've done everything we can to cut back, but we still find ourselves in a bind. We have to cut further. So I just wanted to answer your question of how much that would be, because remember, it's leveraging dollars. That 40,000 leveraged enough that it would have covered the 322,202. Thank you for your time.
Yep. Thank you, Karen. Okay, next I have John Rainville Senior, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. John Rainville, 16100 W Pink Road, Stone Lake, Wisconsin. I'm here to address an issue of zoning and or lack thereof. I believe that Mr. Jay Kolozowski has dropped the ball on this. I don't want to go into detail with the zoning deal, but I believe he has overstepped his authority. He has granted something under the pretense that he will change the zoning classifications to suit the issue at hand. Without any hearings, I don't know. He's allowing in violation numerous zoning ordinances, a non-conforming building. I believe Mr. Kozlowski cannot arbitrarily change the rules without public hearing, therefore cannot allow the issue at hand to continue. In his capacity, he has reduced property rights, property values, causing harm and elimination of harmony, also causing threats to the community. I speak on the sense that when I purchased my property on Pank Road, I bought 40 acres and there was a 5.5 acre plot next to me that is a wetland and adjacent to navigable waters. Now, from the spring of 2017 to today, I have continually gone to zoning when there was an issue about the property being up for sale. And I specifically asked, what are the zoning requirements for a wetland adjacent to navigable waters? And the setback is 75 feet. So for 4 years, 5 years, I've gotten that. You have to be 75 feet back. And then in zoning, you have to know where your four property lines are. So you know whether or not there's a hardship or whether you qualify for a buildable lot. This property owner has done nothing. This property owner has attacked me and our community in vulgar manner. And he's had vulgar comments on his windshield, and his position is he can do whatever he wants. He paid cash for his property and he doesn't have to listen to anybody. And so far to date, since last spring to this fall, he has not listened to anybody and he has done what he wanted. My position is enforce the zoning laws that are on the books in the 2021 comprehensive plan that we go by, the Sawyer County 2021 to 41. It states exactly in there what a wetland adjacent to navigable waters is. But the last conversation I had with Mr. J.
Sir, you want to wrap it up here,
Yeah,
please?
the last conversation I had with Mr. J was he was going to change the rules. So I just want you guys to know, you ladies to know, that to me, the fix is in. And I don't like it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, next I have Rick Christian, please.
Well, Rick Christian, supporting the Sawyer County Fair, PO Box 1173, Hayward, Wisconsin. I just want to tell the board, thanks for all the support every year after year with our fair. Without it, we wouldn't be able to continue to improve it and make it bigger for the kids. The extra money that we've been asking for is to make changes, upgrades, fixes that have not been handled year after year, and just make everything safer and better for the kids and continue to grow a fair that the county's proud of. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Okay, is there anyone else? That's all my requests. Oh, one more, okay.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Birchwood, Edgewater property owner. In a roundabout way, I'm speaking to the budget, but specifically things that would affect spending on the county would be item number 15. And I would hope people would stick around for the whole meeting, because on item number 15, you will be acting on a resolution to borrow $320,000, which is a premium market price for 80 acres of forest land. And right now, Sawyer County has over 113,000 acres of county forest land. And you'd be acting to buy 80 acres more at $320,000. And all these people are here just asking for $10,000 for the library. Also, there've been a lot of closed meetings on the carbon marketing and development agreement, which is item number 13. And there have been private meetings with timber industry, a lot of closed sessions and committee meetings. And this coming forward to you tonight, I think if there's no hurry, maybe allow the public to have some awareness and commenting on that. whether it's called Blue Source or their new name, basically, I have an issue with companies buying those offsets or credits for no real incremental environmental benefit. Sawyer County already has its forest lands enrolled in a sustainable program, and there is really no additional benefit. And then just a comment about this year's budget process. The 2021 audit was only just presented to the Finance Committee last week. That budget should have been part of the working on the 2023 budget, as well as looking at where you are in 2022 year to date. So I don't know as a board if you have a really clear picture as to what adjustments you can comfortably make, but I understand there's a large unassigned fund balance as well as hundreds of thousands of dollars set aside. So please consider the general public needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Alex, is there anybody online wishing to speak?
Looks like I've got one hand. Donna.
Donna? Okay, go ahead, Donna.
Hi, my name is Donna Nucky, 3416 County Road W, Winter. Sorry I can't be there in person tonight, but I'm happy to listen to all of the requests for libraries. Just wanted to represent the Winter Public Library and wanted to let you know that we run our library with 3 part-time people. And even though we're small and our budget is small, we do appreciate every dollar that we do get from the Sawyer County board. We are able to have our hours open 47 hours a week in the summertime and 41 hours in the wintertime. And even though we're small, we can offer the same services that larger libraries can because we're part of the Northern Waters Library Service. And because the libraries, even though we're each our own entity, we work well together in trying to support each other in our programming efforts. So I just want to ask the board to please fund the Winter Library at the amount requested and continue to support libraries in Sawyer County with their funding, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Alex, anybody else online? Okay, if not, that concludes public comment. Thank you all for the great comments. All right, we'll move on to number 7 then. Consider approval of our meeting minutes, October 20th, 2022. Entertain a motion, Mr. Kinsley, second by Mr. Duffy. I got a motion by Mr. Kinsley, second by Mr. Duffy to approve our meeting minutes of October 20th, 2022 as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now, Madam Clerk, we'll have a test run of our new voting devices, please.
Correct. And how this is going to work is those online, our 3 board members online, when I call your name, you're going to cast your vote with me out loud, and I will push your clicker for you since you don't have that in your hands. Everyone else, when I open the voting, you are going to click yes is going to be your green button, red will be your no button, yellow will be abstain. Don't use any other buttons. So when I open up the vote, and I will share my screen. It will take just a minute.
Sure.
Okay,
She'll tell us.
the vote is open. Go ahead and cast your votes. At the end, I will call on our online individuals.
She's written it up there. While you're testing us here.
Yes. Oh, the question is, sorry, in 1996, the coldest temperature in Wisconsin was recorded at -55 degrees in Sawyer County. Yes or no? Yes for green, red for no. Cast your vote, please. Public can see the votes coming in. And do we have, I'm going to call on Michael Maestri. Please cast your vote for me, please. Yes or no?
Yes.
Brian Bissonette? Brian?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. No.
Okay, then the last one is Mark Helwig. Please vote yes for green and no
Okay,
for
let's
red.
take a swag here and we'll say yes.
Okay, I'm going to close the vote. And you can see green votes there. The motion passed 10-3. So the answer is yes. Sawyer County in 1996 had a negative temperature of 55 degrees and holds the state record.
Really? Okay.
And
All right,
that's
thank
how
you.
the voting system works.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Then you will remind me when we're going to use these. What about a roll call vote?
Yes, roll call vote. We
We'll
can,
use these too?
yep,
All right. Okay, we all set?
yes.
All right, moving on to number 8. 2023 budget discussion and possible action. I'll invite Mr. Markeren up, please, to the podium. Our wonderful finance director, sir. All the
Don't tell my
hard
wife
work and
about that
everything.
record. She'll
Okay.
not be happy.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now. Oh, you got it. Thank you.
All right, we've presented this budget a couple times now. It's gone through finance committee now, so it's the board's budget. I'm just gonna highlight a couple things quickly, just as a reminder. Alex, if you want to go to the next, or go back one. So here are the components of the levy: operating levy, debt service levy, special purpose levy. Special purpose includes libraries, culverts, and ambulance to come up with a total levy. If you want to flip to the next one. This is how the levy limit is calculated. There are some things to get to the base levy limit, which is that one right in the middle there of 11,833,000. And then you add in library service, culvert aid, emergency operating levy, and emergency capital to come up with the grand total levy. And I just want to reiterate, those special purpose ones are outside of the levy limit. So if you added the 10,000 back to the library, it has no effect on our budget. It would affect the taxes.
Right, but Mr. Marker, and the total special purpose levy would add to the taxpayer base or the taxpayer amount.
Correct.
Correct.
Yep. So all that said and done, the next slide. The mill rate estimated for 2023 would be $3.09 per thousand. That is the lowest amount since 2018. It's a good property valuation growth to help with that. Generally stayed right around 3, a little bit over, so kind of in line of years past. A little clarification from the last meeting, I got a little more information on our recommendation to move property and casualty insurance to outside the levy limit. That is done through debt issuance, very similar to CIP, the capital improvement plan. There is room in the plan that Brian Della laid out last spring, Brian from PMA, of our financing over 2023. It will fit into that, so that would require no additional borrowing to make that happen. That's all I've got, unless you have questions for me, which I'm sure you do.
Thank you. Mr. Kinsley, then the finance committee, what did they come forward with?
Finance committee presented, it was presented the budget, and it was approved the way it was presented, passed on.
And it was approved at finance? Okay, Ms. Hessel.
Could you show the, if you have the history of the library, just to show what the allocated, the state formula is versus what we give? Do you have that on here?
I don't think it's in here. I can rattle it off if you want.
Okay, so go ahead. I have it written down, but I just am making sure I did my math correctly.
So for 2023, I'm assuming you're talking formula versus what we're actually recommending.
Correct.
So for the Hayward Library, the formula is about $122,000. We're recommending 200,000. The Winter Library is about, well, it's 1,997. I remember that one for some reason.
And
That's the
42 cents.
formula. And we're recommending what they asked for, about 78. So they both are about $70,000 over formula.
And that doesn't include what we pay out when books are received from other libraries, correct? So our base.
Outside of county libraries, we follow the formula, correct? Yep.
Yeah, we follow that formula. And so we're actually giving our county library is 300, or roughly $350,000, correct?
No. It
Well-
would be about 320,000. There's about 20,000 of outside the county libraries that we fund.
Oh, that's not county. Okay.
Well, if we pay it. Like North Waters. That's out of county, but
It's a
what we're
regional.
paying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
Okay.
wanted to clarify that. I think there was some misinformation that we weren't giving, we weren't supporting, we're definitely supporting. So.
So Mr. Marker, and then the Hayward Lakes Visitor Bureau, they're staying at the amount we gave them last year. Is that correct?
Mhm.
50,000? And transit's getting increase?
Of 5,000, yep.
Okay, and the fair, Sawyer County Fair, an increase?
2,000, yep.
Okay,
Senior center is about a $15,000 increase.
increase. That's right, yeah. Okay, Mr. Buckholz.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add, talking about the Hayward Lakes visitors. They're 50,000. Last year, they got 10,000 from the county and 40,000 from our ARPA. This year, they're asking 50,000. I believe that we should take 10,000 from that to give that to the Hayward Library and to take such amount to give Nemocog Transit what they're asking for, because I don't believe that they need our help anymore. So, and if Sawyer County Fair needs more money, then we should go there with it.
Okay, so those are some of your points, Mr. Buckholz.
Do I need to make a motion for that?
You do, sir.
I will make a motion to do what I just presented to the board.
Okay, Madam Clerk, you gonna tell me with this?
I'm
We
ready
have a
to jump
motion.
to this.
By Mr. Buckholz.
To,
So you,
to fund
To fund
10,000.
10,000 to the Hayward Library, give Nemocog Transit what they need so they can keep their buses up.
Which is what
to,
amount?
The amount that she requested, and I believe
That'd be 20,000.
20,000, okay. And then, the Sawyer County Fair, did we cut them?
we did not.
Okay, all right.
So you've got a total of 30,000.
30,000 from Sawyer, or from.
And you
Hayward
want to
Lakes
take that
Base.
money from Hayward
From-
Lakes Visitor
yes.
Bureau and add 10,000 to Sherman Weiss Library and
Library.
20,000 to transit.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor by Mr. Buckholz. I need a second before we have any further
Can I make a
discussion.
point of order
Mis-
first?
Mr. Betcher.
Don't we have to have a motion to either approve or deny this budget resolution before we can make amendments to it? According to the rules.
Andy, what would you like to do? That's a good question. That's a good question, Jesse. Right, right.
The point of
So-
order is because it was approved at finance as.
To come
is.
here and county
It's
board.
been discussed at every
Yes.
committee meeting. So to make the amendment now is,
So could Mr. Buckholz's motion include approving the budget with these amendments?
Yes.
Andy?
Is the resolution to adopt on the table?
No. Nope.
I'll make a motion for the budget.
We got to clear up Mr. Buckholz's motion here.
I think once the resolution's on the table, then we can make amendments. to the budget.
Okay,
his motion is null and void because there was not an amendment to approve. I mean, there was
Okay.
not a motion to
can you
approve
rescind
the
yours
budget.
till we get through this
Sure.
motion? and then-
Yep,
All
I'll
right.
rescind my motion to,
And we've got it, sir. I know to
Okay.
rescind your
All right.
motion. You can hold it there for now, so I'll go with Mr. Righeimer then. Do you have a motion to approve
Approve the budget.
as
presented
presented
and approved
and
at the
approved at the
finance.
finance committee?
Correct.
I'll second that.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Righeimer, second by Ms. Hessel. And now in discussion, you can make an amendment, sir.
I make an amendment to that to give the Hayward Weiss Library 10,000. Nemocog Transit was 20,000. to come out of the Hayward Lakes 50,000 that they're getting from the county.
Okay, so that would make Hayward Lakes Visitor Bureau then deduct them 30,000.
30,000.
So we'd be giving them 20,000.
20,000.
Okay. So first, we're gonna vote on the amendment, and I need a second before we call for a vote. Is
Do
there
a second on that,
to
Mr.
Mr.
Chair.
Buckholz's motion?
Second on that.
Okay, I got a second by Mr. Helwig. Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Helwig to amend Mr. Righeimer's motion to approve the budget. And the amendment includes taking 10,000 from Hayward Lakes Visitor Bureau and adding to
Hayward Library. So they
And
get
then
the amount that
taking
they're
20,000 from
To
Hayward Lakes
1,000
Visitor Bureau and adding to transit,
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Is everybody clear on the motion and the second? Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Helwig. Voting only on the amendment right now.
Is this a roll call vote?
It will be a roll call
Will
vote,
it be a
Madam
simple
Clerk.
majority? Yes?
This is a simple majority vote.
Is there any further discussion allowed?
Right,
on
there
this?
is. Yes, Mr. Betcher, I'm sorry, yes. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So the Hayward Lakes and Visitor Convention Bureau is, what we have there is a huge return on investment. People want to dismiss tourism as a byproduct, but as I've said before, that is the lifeblood of the Sawyer County economy. And without it, we're not going to be doing nearly as well as we have been the past couple of years. So to give them 50,000 that they are going to bring in literally millions of dollars in revenue to this county, I think that is a huge return on investment for $50,000. As far as the giving them the extra $10,000 to library, and I'm all for the library. I'm on the board there, as a matter of fact. But we're already funding them at about 115% of the statutory requirement. That 122,000 that was mentioned, that's 70% requirement. So 100% would be about 175,000. We're giving them a 200,000, which is, we hear a lot of arguments for the library, and yeah, we like the library. We're not trying to get rid of it, but does anyone honestly believe that if they don't get, 120%, that the library is going to go under and they're going to close their doors? It's just not the case. They're going to be just fine with the 200,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Betcher. Okay, is there any further discussion on the amendment motion? Oh, Mr. Helwig.
Mike, could you tell me what the monies are that, I can't think of what it's called. Is it rental monies that the Hayward Lakes gets? Like I said, I can't remember what it's actually
The
called.
room tax?
Room tax. Yep.
Yes, that's it. How much do they get?
I believe they have either 242 or 262,000 budgeted for 2023.
And that's just the room tax.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, is it Ms. Hessel?
So has it been proposed that the library go out and get a room tax or go to their other municipalities like we're making all these other entities that ask for money? I mean, we're saying that right now we're putting more emphasis on the library functioning than any of these other places that bring in money. Nothing is free. I've heard that discussed tonight about that it's a free service. Well, the taxpayers are paying for it, and we're going to increase their taxes. By taking away the money from the Hayward Lakes is not increasing, that money going into that is not helping. It's still an increase. It's still taxpayer dollars that you're playing with. So you're just, instead of discussing these at committee meetings, I feel like this is a disservice to everybody that worked hard at the committee meetings. And then to bring it at the 11th hour like we did last year is a disservice and embarrassing to this board.
Okay, is there any other discussion? Madam Clerk, may you let us know the motion, the amended motion again, please, so everyone knows what they're voting on.
The motion is to remove $30,000 from Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau, fund 10,000 of it with the Weiss Library and 20,000 with the transit.
Okay. Everyone clear of the motion? Roll call vote, madam. Yes means that you approve the amended motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Hellwig. No means you deny it.
Go ahead and vote. When you're all done, I will contact the Zoom members. Okay, this time I'm going to start with Mark Hellwig. Please vote.
Yes, aye.
Michael Maestri,
Yes.
Brian Bissonette,
No.
the no votes are 8, the yes votes are 5.
Okay, motion fails. All right, then we'll go back to the original motion by Mr. Righeimer, second by Ms. Hessel, to approve the budget as presented at finance and brought here in front of us today by our finance director for approval. Is there any further discussion on the original motion? Anybody online, Alex? No hands up? Okay, and this we will also do.
The vote is open, please.
Everybody clear of the motion?
There we go.
Approve the
Sorry.
budget as
Now-
presented.
Now it's open. J.R. Schluter just needs to vote. Go ahead and do it again, please. There we go. Okay, Brian Bissonette, please vote.
Yes.
Next is Mark Hellwig,
Sure.
and we have Michael Maestri, please. Michael?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to close the vote. And it passed 12 yes, 1 no.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you all. And I want to thank you, Mr. Marker and Mr. Alvarado, for all your work, and Madam Clerk and the entire board and all the committees, all the work we put into this, and we have a balanced budget with a contingency fund, and I feel real good about this, especially for you two's first year at this for Sawyer County. Appreciate that. All right, moving on, number 9, zoning committee chair report. Mr. Betcher.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the zoning committee held its monthly public hearing on October 21st. The committee heard 3 conditional use permits, in which 2 were approved and 1 was denied. There were several new business.
Mr. Chair, can we, I can't hear.
Yeah, okay, hold. Yeah, can you? Okay. Okay, we need to quiet down, please, so we can hear our people up here. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Betcher.
Madam Clerk, do you need me to start up from the beginning, or?
I think I heard 2 were approved and 1 was denied.
Yes, of the conditional use permits, and there were several new business items for discussion, including potential ordinance amendment that we are working through draft language on. We also heard 2 rezone petitions in which the committee made recommendations for approval. Our next meeting will be held on a Thursday, November 17th, here in this room. So date change there, normally on a Friday. If there are no questions, there's Jay. If there's no question, I'll turn over to Mr. Kozlowski to present the rezone cases.
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Yes, thank you. Before I get into the cases, I do have to make comment about some of the public comments that I heard this evening. Somewhat appalled of what I was hearing there. I told Mr. Rainville that this is being worked out through legal counsel and corporation counsel, and also going to have discussion with zoning committee under closed session on Friday. So please don't think that there's some type of shady business going on. We are working through the process. and
No, we
come to
understand that, Jay.
resolution. So
Yeah.
I had to put that out there. So this is rezone case number 22-014 in the town of Meteor, the northeast one quarter, the southeast one quarter, and the northwest one quarter of the southeast one quarter. It is 80 total acres, currently zoned Forestry 1. Permit is requested to rezone all the Forestry 1 land to Agricultural 1 land to add additional pasture land to existing farming operation. The applicant is requesting this in order to, again, expand existing pasture land for an existing farming operation. The town of Meteor comprehensive plan area shows this as future forestry with the mixing zone districts between Agricultural 1, Forestry 1, and similar uses occurring. There were 6 opinion letters sent out, 0 were returned. The town of Meteor approved the request on October 11th, 2022, and at the Sawyer County Zoning Committee public hearing on October 21st, it was recommended for approval of a vote of 5-0.
Okay, pleasure of the board. Zoning request. Ms. Hessel.
Get motion to approve the resolution 22-014.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Buckles? No? Mr. Peters? I'll second. Okay, motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Peters to approve resolution for rezone number 22-014. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
This is a voice vote, correct?
Aye.
You don't need your clickers.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, letter C, Jay.
Yes, this is rezone number 22-015. This is part of Government Lot 6, Section 19, Township 37 North, Range 9 West, tax ID 8714. It is 46.92 acres zoned Agricultural 1 and Residential 1. The purpose of the request is to rezone approximately 4.85 acres to Commercial 1 for recreational vehicle storage. As per the applicant's statement, this is for a non-structural open land storage, included but not limited to boats, pontoons, and off-road vehicles. The maps are included within your packets there. The proposed rezone would result in conforming zone district dimensional requirements. The purpose of the request would then be to have a permitted use within the Commercial 1 zone district. Again, at the time, the property owners have indicated that it'd be for open storage only, but if the property was rezoned to commercial, any permitted use within that zone district could occur, including commercial storage buildings and mini warehouse storage. Again, as part of the packet that is in front of the board, this Commercial 1 rezone request is approximately 680 feet away from the other nearest Commercial 1 location in that area, which is along the State Highway 48 corridor just north of Birchwood. It is located in the town of Edgewater, and part of their comprehensive plan, they show this area as future shoreland, which does still reference the old lakes classification system. There are a few other residential structures within this immediate area, specifically to the west of the subject property. The zoning department was notified last year that the property owner was storing boats and trailers over the winter in this location and would only be able to do so in the commercial zone district, and thus why the request is coming forward to you here this evening. There were 26 letters sent out for petition within 300 feet of the property. 0 were returned. Town of Edgewater did approve the request on October 11th, 2022. Zoning committee meeting on October 21st. It was recommended for approval, a vote of 5-0.
Okay, oh, Mr. Betcher.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve rezone request 22-015.
Mr. Duffy?
I'll say.
Okay, motion by Mr. Betcher, second by Mr. Duffy to approve resolution for rezone number 22-015. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you, Mr. Betcher. Number 10, Public Safety Committee Chair Report. Mr. Buckholz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This circuit court report, courthouse remodel update by Mr. Alvarado was advised that there's nothing noteworthy to report. Since last month, the east entrance is being encased by the boardroom. Blacktopping starts next week by the sheriff's department. Clerk of court, Mrs. Kelsey advised that the newest clerk, Christy Carr, started last week. No report from the district attorney. Sheriff's department report. Communication Center report, Sheriff Marotek advised that Craig Falstead and Rick Chambers recently passed away, both retired law enforcement. For Hayward, a moment of silence was held at our meeting. He also introduced Lieutenant Waller to the committee. Chief Sedero reviewed the highlights of the Communication Center report, updating on staff vacancy and coverages. And patrol report, a written report was reported by Lieutenant Rapinski on calls and decreased last month. He reviewed highlights of his report. Patrol staff and have recently received some training from medical services. Jail report, Lieutenant Waller is the new jail administrator, and his written report, the average daily population is 80.8 with females housed in Barron County. And we discussed the updates on the electronic bracelets that Mr. Duffy had talked about. And it was said that the females that are housed out of county are pre-sentenced and they cannot be have bracelets. The tribal enforcement grant has not received any updates on this item. Sheriff Marotek advised that Attorney General Slender is working on this, so no action at this time. The code enforcement specialist, Mr. Blanchard reviewed that the highest of highlights of his report, the number of impounded dogs, number was down significantly. Surrendered dogs must go through the Humane Society, not the county impound process. And child report, there's no decision on the MOU with DCF and LCO. It's been postponed, I think, until next month. And coroner's report was provided by Mr. Fremel, advised that his deputies are working on training and training other municipalities, and appointment of the emergency ambulance director. It was a motion by Mr. Peters and a second by Mr. Helwig to appoint John Fremel, the new emergency management / ambulance director, and forward to the county board. The motion passed with a negative vote, without a negative vote. Mr. Alvarado was researching the possibility of moving the medical examiner and duties to the EMS. That ends my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Mr. Alvarado, should that have come to the county board then, that ambulance director, or can they hire?
No,
It will?
Still, the interim will have it for December.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you. Anything else for public safety? If not, we'll move on then. Good report, Mr. Buckles. Number 11, Public Works Committee Chair Report, Mr. Kinsley.
For public safety, are we dealing with letter B or?
We talked about that. Yep.
Okay.
It's coming to us in December.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Public Works met on November 9th. We received a written report from maintenance. We received a written report for the airport. And the highway department was reported, and our big thing with the highway right now is the ordinance that we're working on. We hope to have it finalized in the month of December and bring it to the full board. Second thing is courtroom update. The biggest thing about the courtroom update is the building should be completely enclosed now. They're still putting the roof on. They were at least last week. And the tentative date to turn the key over to Sawyer County is March 12th or 10th. Any questions? Hearing none, move forward. Thank you.
So, Mr. Kinsley, the new courthouse then is on budget and on time,
Yes.
correct?
Presently,
And the contingency fund is holding up, Mr. Alvarado?
Yeah, contingency fund is at 229,000. And then there's a couple change orders in process, which I'll estimate will be about 200,000 in those.
Sorry to
Okay, thank
interrupt,
you.
but I can't hear Mr. Alvarado's answers.
Oh, can you repeat that?
Contingency fund is at about 229,000. We started at 395,000. With the most recent change orders that are in process, there'll be about $200,000 left in the contingency fund.
And the new judge is coming when?
The new judge will be on board July 1, probably up and running sometime in August or September, depending on their training. If anybody's interested in running for judge, I think papers will be available December 1st.
I'm sure we'll take
There you go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Kinsley, Mr. Alvarado. All right, number 12, Land, Water, Forest Resource Committee. Chair report.
Yes, Mr.
Mr. Betcher.
Chairman, the committee held its monthly meeting on Wednesday, November 9th. We approved applications for the Canva Bike Day in December and for the Lions Pre-Berkey to be held in February. As usual, some of the ATV and UTV trails are closed until after deer season. I think Tuscobia and Trail 31, I don't remember all of them, but if you want to know, I can get those. The committee approved several recent timber bids. While we are slightly below our anticipated timber sales, Mr. Peterson, the county forester, expects that we will reach the 2022 budget projections by the end of the year. We had a closed session regarding carbon credits in which the committee approved sending the proposal to legal counsel and then to the county board. And this item will be, is next on the agenda. Pending your questions, that completes my report.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, and you are correct, Mr. Betcher, that number 13, Carbon Marketing and Development Agreement resolution, discussion and possible action has been developed, correct, Mr. Alvarado? And it is now coming to the full county board. But your committee, Land Water, did not have this in front of them to approve. So we'll need a 2/3 vote to discuss this resolution. Is that correct, Mr. Alvarado? 2/3 vote to discuss resolution 2022 approving carbon marketing and development agreement. Now, this is just to discuss it. We'll use our clickers, Madam Clerk. Is that okay?
Yes, 1 second.
So I'll entertain a motion then to discuss. Motion by Mr. Weaver. Second by Mr. Kinsley. Good with that? Oh, okay,
got
sure.
them online, yep.
You got them online, okay. So I got a motion by Mr. Kinsley, Mr. Weaver, second by Mr. Kinsley to discuss the carbon marketing and development resolution in front of us.
And the vote is open, so you can cast your vote to discuss.
To discuss.
Mr. Sleater,
I know I hit the right button this time.
you might just be doing it slightly ahead of schedule is all, so go ahead and do it again. Okay, I'm going with Mr. Michael Maestri next.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Mark Helwig
Yes, ma'am.
and Brian.
Yes.
13-0 pass.
Okay, motion carries. All right, so we're in discussion. Resolution 2022 approving carbon marketing development agreement. Mr. Alvarado, do you want to start?
Sure, just the Land, Forest and Water Resource Committee did review the agreement. We did not have the resolution at the committee meeting. That's why we had to do the 2/3 vote just for the resolution. So the timeline, you probably have, if you've been on the board, you've seen a couple presentations from Blue Source regarding the carbon credit proposal. We did take some time to try to find another entity essentially to compete with Blue Source. There was one entity that was interested, but ultimately decided not to submit a proposal. So we continued on with negotiating the agreement with what is now called a new, they are the new name for Blue Source. So what I have tonight, if anybody needs a hard copy, rather than focus on the agreement, we had Michael Best review the agreement. They have attorneys that are involved in the energy market and in carbon credits. They reviewed the proposals and the contracts for the other counties. So we had them give ours a review, and I asked Taylor to be on with us tonight. He put together, he presented to the committee last month and then put together what we call a plain language summary of the agreement that he can run through with the board so you understand what's in the agreement rather than trying to read the legal wording in the actual agreement. So if unless anybody feels you don't need that. I would have
Everybody
him-
okay with that? Mr. Taylor, okay, go ahead, Taylor.
Mr. Kinsley was, I think, trying to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
Are you up to date on how many counties have already gone with this?
6 already, 6 for sure. I think there's a 7th. So we'd be 7 through 8.
And some of them are surrounding counties.
Yes, so right now, Washburn, Price, Rusk, Bayfield, Ashland, and Douglas have all signed on. Lincoln is the one, I don't know if they've approved theirs yet.
Ms. Hessel.
Are you aware of any that have gotten paid yet?
No, Bayfield County is the closest. Their credits should be going to market here over the winter. They're at the point where their credits are gonna be marketed. The marketing part, or how long did it take them to get to this part?
How long did it take for them to get the payment?
I
Once
don't,
they sign the agreement, do you know any of that?
it's about 18 months at the
Okay.
earliest. We're probably gonna be a little longer out because now we're waiting in line. Bayfield County is 18 months ahead of us. The other, like Price, Rusk are a year ahead.
Okay, go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I am Taylor Fritsch. I'm an attorney with Michael Best and Friedrich. Me and my colleague, Jordan Hamiden, have worked on these agreements, as Mr. Alvarado mentioned. I'll take you through this memo at a high level. Obviously, I don't want to read to you or read what you've already been presented, just given that you've had this, but I will, work through each article of the agreement and provide you kind of the important things I think that you should know about the agreement. And then certainly the contract itself memorializes these terms. The first article of the agreement just sets forth the purpose. The purpose is that you're attempting to do an improved forest management project, essentially making commitments about your future management, sustainable management of the county forest in a manner that allows it to generate carbon credits. And you want ANEW, which is the new name for Blue Source, following their merger, to act as your developing and marketing agent to both develop those credits and then take them to the marketplace and sell them. And I'll just say right at the outset, I should have mentioned this. I'm looking to my right. I've got my notes on a screen, so don't interpret that as a disrespect at all. I'm just trying to keep with my notes here. Second article just provides some, incorporates some general terms and conditions into the agreement. I would say probably the biggest thing there is that Wisconsin law governs a dispute. There's also a force majeure clause. If something prevents either party from performing other than a payment obligation, they can suspend their performance under this agreement, which of course becomes relevant in terms of, a situation like we had a couple of years ago with a pandemic, which prevented certain things from moving forward on schedule. Article 3 of the agreement summarizes the services that ANEW is going to provide under this contract. So what are they going to do for the county? Well, they're going to develop these carbon credits. They're going to assess the county forest's potential to develop carbon credits. They're going to hire or do in-house, develop the documentation that's needed to create those credits. They're going to do a carbon inventory for the project. They're going to provide you with a projected performance report that estimates how many credits are expected to be generated based on the projected harvest volumes for the county forest going forward. They'll engage a verifier, which is sort of a term of art, verification, who will validate the project and verify that those carbon credits are in fact created using the standard of the American Carbon Registry or another registry that the county and ANEW would agree to use, but that's the regime that they work with to create and market these credits. And what American Carbon Registry does is really create the rule book so that buyers trust when they buy these things that they have value to them, that they're not just made up or not a real benefit, that they set the rules and they enforce those rules and create the marketplace. And then the last thing, of course, is that ANEW is going to register those credits with the ERB regime, which I mentioned will almost certainly be American Carbon Registry, the ACR regime. They'll look to do that within a time certain so that those credits can be marketed. Your responsibility as well, you're going to take the actions that they request, reasonably request. to register the project and get the project listed on an ERP regime, so the American Carbon Registry. You're going to take the actions necessary to make them your agent for purposes of going to the market. Again, that's what they do, right? They develop and aggregate and market these credits. That's their business. So you'd want them to be able to act on your behalf and take that administrative burden off the county. You'll provide access to the land, the county forest that comprises the projects. You'll notify them of any change in circumstances that would materially alter this agreement or one of the promises or warranties you make. And you'll execute the documents that are needed to participate in the regime. Kind of a standard thing, but obviously they're going to need assurance that over time you're going to cooperate with those efforts. Article 5 of the agreement essentially states that you're going to grant title and right to market the carbon credits to Anew. They have the right to market credits that are created as a result of actions taken during the development period. The development period is essentially 10 years for this agreement. Anew has the discretion to determine which carbon credits are sufficient to be pursued for verification or sale. And Anew may aggregate your credits with those created by other suppliers. So it could be other counties in Wisconsin to market those, because if you are a buyer of these credits, you might want a certain number of credits. And so you'd want to be able to buy all of the credits that you need, or otherwise maximize their value. And I think an important thing to keep in mind about this agreement is that it is structured in a way that they bear the upfront risk associated with developing these credits, developing this project. And the more they benefit, the more you benefit. So your interests are aligned in terms of getting a larger share of proceeds. It's in their interest as well as yours for them to maximize the profitability of the project. So Article 6 is price and payment. Your committee negotiated with Anew to obtain a concession on the threshold. The threshold being the level at which you start to see a greater percentage, so jumping from 75 to 80% of those net proceeds. What are net proceeds in this case? The proceeds of the project are the things that are the monies that they receive. And I apologize, I've got another set of notifications going off. Hopefully that stops. The proceeds are the money that they receive from selling ERBs. They create the net proceeds by offsetting expenses, which essentially means that you and Anew will share the expenses. But what are expenses? Expenses are not Anew's costs internally of developing and marketing this project. Expenses are the third-party payables, other than general and administrative expenses that Anew incurs out of pocket to develop these credits. There's an obligation that they make timely payment to the county. There's interest if they don't. And you have the right to obtain relevant portions of their books and records to verify that the payments that the county is being made are accurate.
Taylor, are these ratios consistent with other counties that have signed on with Anew? I mean, the 75-25 and 80-20?
Yeah, so I'm somewhat limited in what I can say about clients that I've represented, just ethically. What I can say is that I believe it is at least as favorable, and Andy perhaps can offer his insight from his prior employment on that topic as well.
Yeah, that's what Andy and then I.
So these agreements.
Are we getting taken, or is this a good deal?
I think this is a good deal. I can't tell you on all the agreements, the ones I have knowledge of. I believe one of them is at 75-25 for all the credits. And then a number of the counties, including the one I was at before, signed a tiered agreement where 0 to 750,000 credits was at 75-25, 750 to 1.25 was at 80-20, and above 1.25 was 82.5, 17.5, I believe.
Okay.
Which that third tier, and that would have applied here, was kind of gravy because there's not projected to be more than 1.25 million credits. The projection that the newest provided you for Sawyer County is like 1.19 million credits. This is actually, like Taylor said, as favorable as the other ones because we took and reduced the 750,000 limit down to 625. So we have those at the 75-25. So in theory, there's another 125,000 credits at a lower commission than some of the other counties.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Taylor. Thanks.
You bet. Articles 7 and 8, I'll kind of take in tandem. Article 7 are the landowners or the county's reps, warranties, and covenants. Article 8 is the reps, warranties, and covenants of a new. We've essentially made them, given you have a different role, they're not exactly mutual, but they are approximately mutual for each the role that you have. So they're fair as between the parties in my estimation. Essentially, probably the biggest thing here is that you are covenanting, the county is promising that it's not going to take a voluntary activity that will result in what is referred to or defined in the agreement as a material reduction of ERBs. And that means a reduction in carbon credits that is caused by exceeding the allowable harvest levels that you've agreed to with a new by more than 10%, by 10% or more, I should say, over any 3-year period. So again, if you over harvest, that allowable level by more than that sort of 10% buffer, at that point you've caused a material reduction, and you'd have to respond in damages to a new kind of an essential component of this. And obviously, you're not going to sell the credits to any other party, right? You're agreeing to do this with the new so that they can go into the marketplace and act as your agent. With respect to a news reps, warranties, and covenants, I think the one I'd highlight here, or the two I'd highlight here, they're agreeing to act as your advisor as to the requirements of the regime. That just sort of makes sense. That's the service they're providing, or part of the service that they're providing. They also have an obligation where if they're going to enter into a transaction with an affiliate to buy goods or services related to the project. And I'm thinking here of the kinds of third-party services that would be offsettable against the proceeds as expenses. What we're saying is you can't have terms that are less favorable to a new than what they would be able to get on the open market, right? They can't self-deal by creating an affiliate that provides services and then gets to siphon expenses away from the project, unless they can show that it's a fair and arm's length transaction, or at least not less favorable than what they could get in an arm's length transaction. Article 9 is just a simple covenant of further assurances. You're going to take the actions that are necessary to carry out this agreement. Article 10 speaks of records, access to records, what you're going to provide them access to for them to be able to do their job, and then what they're going to provide, what they're going to maintain records of in terms of the sales that they make of your credits. I would say one thing to note here, the last bullet under Article 11 or Article 10 in my summary is that at the conclusion of the term, all of the non-proprietary documentation is to be provided back to you. Specifically, we're looking here about data, and if you were to work with a different developer in the future, you'd want to be able to get at that data. The only exception to that rule that they've got to provide that non-proprietary data back is a termination due to the county's breach. So if you breach the contract, you don't get the fruits of their work. And then we get into what are really starting to be more of the kind of standard terms and conditions. I won't say they're unimportant, but they're much more in my wheelhouse in terms of thinking about contracts and how, you know, we protect and balance the interests of the parties. Article 11, there's a mutual limitation of liability in this agreement. I say mutual because your liability and the ANU's liability is limited, subject to certain exceptions. There are, of course, carve-outs, and specifically, I would say the biggest carve-out is if you breach the agreement. That is not a situation where liability is limited. Likewise, Article 12, there's an obligation to indemnify both in favor of ANU and in favor of the county, and that also is carved out. So if you take an action that triggers that indemnification, that's not a limited liability occurrence. Article 13, just some basic disclaimers in terms of the parties' understanding. You're not guaranteeing this is going to produce credits, and they're not guaranteeing that it's going to create a specific amount or value to you. There are various ways this agreement can be terminated prior to its natural expiration at the end of the term. Those are set out in Article 14. I won't go through each of them, but I would point out again, we talked about that material reduction concept before. There is a specific provision for how a material reduction is handled. And in that situation, the county is to pay ANU the compensatory damages to make ANU whole for what they suffered as a result of the breach. And then the agreement continues, it's not terminated. So, you know, the idea there is to, again, make ANU whole for the county's breach in that instance, and then the agreement continues forward. Other termination in this rights in this agreement, I mean, there are a few that are in favor of the county in terms of if they fail to perform the initial round of validation, verification, and registration in a sort of outer bound of reasonableness. There's a termination right. You have a discretionary termination right before they start working on the inventory, or 6 months, whichever comes first. ANU has a right to terminate if the project becomes economically unfeasible, but in that instance, you have no liability for expenses. So thinking through some of the ways this agreement might have to come to an end sooner, and trying to mitigate the county's risk in that process. There's a dispute resolution process set up in Article 15, essentially trying to work things out or work a dispute out informally between the county and ANU, moving to a confidential mediation if that's not successful. So a more formal mechanism of trying to resolve an agreement, and then ultimately, you know, your right to pursue litigation is not hindered if it comes to that, or if the dispute can't be resolved. There's certain confidential information that's accounted for in Article 16. There's standard notice provisions, and then at the end in Article 18, there are provisions that survive the expiration or termination of the agreement, which again is normal. Something like a limitation of liability, you would not want to have that right expire or that protection expire. So that's the basic format of this agreement. I guess I would emphasize that this agreement is what governs the commercial relationship the county has between ANU and the county for developing and marketing credits during the term of this agreement. If at the end of this term, the county wanted to continue to pursue you know, the development of credits in a future period, and if that's something that the market wants to see happen, you know, you could work with a different developer or go to an RFP process or renegotiate this agreement with a new once it expires at the end of that. I say 10 years, but there's a 10-year development period, and there's a kind of what I would consider to be a tail of not longer than I believe 18 months, wherein it's essentially the wrap-up period, distributing any of the payments that are outstanding, that sort of thing. So yeah, that's kind of a high-level summary. I realize that that's probably a lot of information in a very short amount of time, but I'm happy to answer questions.
What is the length of this agreement? Did you mention that, Taylor?
Yeah, I did. And
oh, 10-year. Okay.
Correct. It's 10 years with like I said, there's a tail period at the end that lasts for as long as there's money to be distributed, or I think 18 months. I'm fairly certain of that. I'd have to look at the language to be entirely sure, but let me just see if I can pull it here quickly and verify that.
Does Taylor work for us or a new?
For us.
Okay. Any
Yeah,
questions from the board?
Yeah, so if
make
you,
that clear, Taylor.
yeah, no, I'm acting as special counsel for the county for the purpose of this agreement. Yeah,
Mr.
so
Weaver.
it is.
Just a second, Taylor. We got a supervisor has a question
sorry.
for you, Mr. Weaver.
Just a question on Article 16 confidential information. Being that this is public land and a county board meeting, I mean, is there specific things that we're not supposed to divulge? I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah, and I think in terms of your public meeting and public records obligation, I'd certainly defer to the county's corporation counsel who deals in those matters on a more routine basis. My understanding is that this agreement, though, is expected to, if approved, become a public document. So the fact of this agreement, or the terms of this agreement will become public as a result of that. And Mr. Alvarado can correct me if the county has a different view of that that I'm aware of. I think to answer the question on what Article 16 does, it certainly imposes a confidentiality obligation on the county. And I think the key thing there is that it's the information that the two parties exchange as a result of their business under the agreement. And what I mean by that is if there is certain proprietary information that is shared, for example, with the county forestry staff, that ANU would want to be protected because it's part of its business model, that is the sort of thing that would be covered under this agreement. Does not cover information that's already in the public domain. It cannot and does not supersede the county's obligations under the Public Records Act. And certainly the county has the ability to share that information within the committees and the county board as necessary, provided that those persons agree to keep it confidential. So, there are kind of reasonable exceptions to that, but the idea is to protect the information that's exchanged as part of this agreement, really mostly the proprietary information of Blue Source.
That answers your question, Mr. Weaver? Yes. Okay, and Mr. Betcher, Land, Water, Forestry has seen this agreement and worked it
Yes.
through your committee?
And I don't have a question, but if it's okay, I would like to make a motion to approve a carbon marketing and development agreement resolution.
A resolution pertaining to this agreement.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Righeimer. Motion by Mr. Betcher, second by Mr. Righeimer to approve the resolution approving the carbon marketing and development agreement, resolution 2022. Is that good, Mr. Alvarado? Yes. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Kinsley.
I assume with these changes that Mr. Peterson has seen this and he's okay with that?
Yes, he was at the meeting.
Thank you.
And there's no further expense. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Peters, yes, sir.
I do have a couple of questions or comments. I really understand the desire of the county board to receive the benefits from this type of a contract or an agreement, especially with the limitations that have been placed on us by the legislature. However, I think that Sawyer County economy depends to a large degree on winter conditions and the snow that those seasons bring. And as atmospheric concentrations of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases increase, the duration of these winter conditions are shrinking. Now, predictions vary, but if we continue to see the rise in temperatures, Sawyer County's climate may soon resemble that currently characteristic of much farther south areas of the state. And most of those are not conducive to reliable winter sports or cross-country ski seasons. By entering into this agreement, will we be allowing some deep-pocketed corporations to disguise their carbon emissions? And if so, I have some reservations about voting for it. Thank you.
Sure. Would you like Taylor or anyone to answer that question, Mr. Peters? You care
I
to
guess if
comment,
there
Taylor or Randy?
are answers to it.
All right, well, thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion by Mr. Betcher, second by Mr. Righeimer? Yes, Mr. Betcher.
I would just like to say that we've been looking at this for a good 8 or 9 months, at least, maybe longer. And I will say when I first started doing a little research about this, I was skeptical. I was even against it for some of the same reasons that the gentleman from District 15 mentioned, that it's just an excuse for big corporations to have a clean conscience about burning fossil fuels and creating a lot of pollution and carbon credits or carbon. But after doing a lot more research, and I have done a considerable amount, I am now a huge supporter of this. And one of the things is we're selling on the voluntary market, and these corporations that are buying these up, they are, they're businesses. They worry about the bottom line in a capitalist country, and they are this is going to incentivize them to take measures to reduce their own carbon emissions, because they don't want to be paying $18, $20, $22 per carbon credit offset. So even though that's what the current price is, in fact, last week they were going for, I think, just over $20 per credit. It's actually helping the environment. It's a good thing to do this. And like I said, if you do just a little bit of research, you might not see that. But if you do more extensive research, you'll find that it does have a lot of positive implications and effects on our environment, and will actually reduce carbon emissions.
Okay, Mr. Bissonette, did you have any comment on this, please?
Thanks, Tweet. Just basically, reaffirming what Jesse said. We've been discussing this. I was in the same boat early on. I was pretty much against it. But the only thing that, because initially these credits were going to be sold to companies to offset their carbon use. Now, Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, the companies that were listed were not, I can't remember what they were called, the companies that would be purchasing these.
Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to
Yeah.
colloquy. Yeah, so there's a difference between the voluntary and the compliant market, where some companies, like aviation companies, they're forced to take measures to offset their carbon emissions. And that's a completely different market. They buy their carbon credits for $5, $6 a piece. The ones in the voluntary market, they are doing it to, and maybe it is part of it making them feel good about themselves, but it also incentivizes them to reduce their credits. And so we go in, it goes into basically an auction on the open market, not an open market, a carbon specific market. And so the prices can fluctuate, but they have been going up steadily. When we started talking about this almost a year ago, they were around $12, $13. And now, like I said, they're up over right around $20. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but there are two very different markets, voluntary and, you know, forced to comply. I don't know if that'd be involuntary.
Right. Okay, so that was my initial concern, that what we were doing was basically selling it to somebody that was required to do it, but that isn't the case. Like I said, I've asked a lot of questions too as well, and I guess I'm to the point where I'm comfortable with it. So.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Duff.
What's the tribe doing?
Haven't addressed it yet. Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, I think we'll do a vote with our new machines here. Madam Clerk?
My grid changed, but it is still recording. The vote is open, and go
Okay.
ahead and vote, and then I will call on the,
Motion to approve the resolution.
yes.
Yep. Motion. Mr. Betcher, second by Mr. Righeimer.
I don't know why the grid changed. I get my training on Monday.
It says to hit the space bar to open.
It is open. Yeah, but my grid just disappeared. I think it's capturing. Oh, total 7 have voted. It says, I think.
So we've all voted?
Well, I'm gonna click for Mark Helwig next. What's your vote, Mark?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, Brian,
Yes.
and we have Michael.
Yes.
Okay, we have 11 who have cast their vote successfully. So if you,
I haven't casted mine yet.
okay,
Okay.
okay, now I can close the vote. And it passed 11-1, and I will have, I will have those.
All right, motion
marked with the
carries.
grid.
Good work, land, water, forestry.
Do you need the,
12, 13. Let's see if I can open that back up.
I don't know if it matters. I mean, because
Yeah,
it was a
no, I know,
majority
I know,
anyway.
we're
Of just
Preview. Hmm. It's,
Well,
I'll
motion.
find out how to do it.
Yep, motion carries regardless, so. All right, are you good with that? Madam Clerk, you good to move on?
Yes.
Okay, number 14, Health and Human Services Board Chair Report. Mr. Schleter.
Can you stop sharing for me? Yep, there we go.
The report is we did not have a quorum, so there was no meeting.
That's it. Any questions, concerns? Exactly. All right, moving on, number 15, Finance Committee Chair Report, Mr. Kinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had the 2021 audit presented to us, and she reviewed it, and there's no facts or finding of anything out of line, which I thought was a positive. We also had a request from the Waldo Club from Winter, and a request that didn't have it in on time, so it was turned down. We had analysis of the ambulance billing. It sounds like it's being worked on, which is a good thing. I want to keep abreast of that. Courthouse update construction, and you'll cover the funding of that later. And we have the letter B, resolution for authorizing state trust fund loan applications.
Yep.
Andy, you want to cover that, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kinsley. Mr. Alvarado.
So last month, you approved the acquisition of the 80 acres of county forest land. Sale price is just under 320,000. This is a resolution that authorizes the state trust fund loan application to cover the acquisition cost. The plan, and we went through this a little bit with the finance committee, like Mr. Markin had explained, you already had a financing plan for next year. that would cover any overages or any unfunded portions of the building project, the capital improvements for 23 and 24. That's already built into your debt service plan. This would be rolled into that bond issue next year as well. This just gets us the acquisition accomplished before the end of this year.
Okay. So it breaks down into 4,000 an acre, correct? We're paying for this 80 acres?
Yes.
Is that math correct? Okay. Oh, Ms. Hessel, I'm sorry.
It's a little less, round numbers. Can I just add one more thing? This
Yes.
does not affect next year's budget because any payment on this loan isn't due until 2024.
Got it.
There's no budget amendment.
Yes, Ms. Hessel.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve authorizing state trust fund loan application for 320,000.
And I would make a second on that, please.
All right, Mr. Helwig, motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Helwig, approving the resolution authorizing application for state trust fund loans. Is there any further discussion?
Just one question.
Oh, yes, Jesse.
I know you mentioned, not having to pay next year, but isn't there a possibility though, that we can get some of this recouped through a state grant?
Yeah, next year when the stewardship fund process opens up, we will be applying for stewardship funds that could fund up to half of the appraised value of
50%.
property.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Hessel.
Also, I'm just wanting to state or ask a question, I'm sorry. This land, by purchasing it, it doesn't block any of the quiet sports. That's why we're purchasing it, is to make those trails more open, the quiet sports, correct?
Correct. Recalling Mr. Peterson's presentation that right now, a lot of these trails that come off of Hatchery Park, you have to go through a narrow corridor because this parcel of land's kind of right in the middle of that area. So it should open up more opportunity for trails.
Okay, so I got a motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Betcher, approving the resolution authorizing an application for state trust fund loan in the amount of 320,000. We want to use our clickers, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay.
If I could clarify though, that second was actually by Mr. Helwig, not by me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Mr. Howard, yes.
Okay. Polling open.
It is open.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to ask Brian Bissonette for your vote.
Yes.
And next we have Mark Helwig
Yes.
and Michael Maestri.
Yes.
Okay. I'm pressing the space bar. Okay. And it's not letting me. Oh, there we go. Just a little slow on the uptake, I guess.
Okay.
And it passed. It looks like we have one nay vote.
Okay. Motion carries. Thank you. Anything else for our Finance Committee Chair? Thank you, Mr. Kinsley. If not, Economic Development UW Extension, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We met on November 7th. No action items were taken to report. We first of all heard from Hayward Lakes Visitor Bureau. They've received a Wisconsin DMO grant for filming and promoting silent sports, which include hiking, biking, skiing, golfing, tubing, kayaking, and canoeing. Also, they've informed us that the Vacation Guide magazine has gone to press and it will be delivered on December 1st. They also are printing 80,000 copies this year. That's up from 5,000 from last year. And the Department of Tourism grant for marketing development will be received by them in May. We also received and heard reports from the Fair Association on last year's events and their plans for next year. And we also heard from the Winter and the Hayward Libraries. Also, we heard from the Snowmobile and ATV Alliance. They now informed us they have 2 of the 3 infrared trail cameras that have been installed that show the traffic per day on each of these trails. They also have formed a liaison with the CAMBA to resolve conflicts between the bike and the ATV trails. There's been so much increase in usage of these trails. There's much of the same trails are used by both. And to avoid conflicts, they're going to resolve that issue with maps and whatever. Then in regards to the Berkey, they have received 9,500 skiers registered to date. They're on track to reach 11,000 for the race day. Next year, they are going to have the LWC, that's the Lumberjack event, on July 20th and 21st. They've completed a new paved hiking and roller ski trail at Telemark. They now are planning the next event is the Turkey Berkey event, which is set for the Thanksgiving weekend. That's a cross-country ski camp and an expo, and they hope to have 5 Ks of artificial snow laid down by that time. And they began snowmaking last Saturday and continue until the weather, hopefully it won't turn bad for them. And lastly, they're building a large garage on Wheeler Road. That's built to store a large groomer, which will groom the southern part of the trail. And that completes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Schluter?
Yeah, just a question. They went from 5,000 to how many thousand?
80,000 this year. They're up 5,000 more than last year.
Thank you. That,
Yeah.
I thought that clears it up.
Ms. Cecil?
I just wanted to note the economic development, the Sawyer County LCO Economic Development held a placemaking at the LCO College University. Is it university now?
University.
On Saturday of this last week, and they had 9 participants.
Thank you. Okay, anything else for economic development? If not, thank you, Mr. Duffy. County Administrator's Report, Mr. Alvarado.
I'll just give you a kind of a brief update on some items we didn't cover already tonight. Muni code, still trying to pull that together and put the final pieces in place. Really hopeful that we'll have it for December's meeting. There were some ordinances that were not included in the most recent draft, which most recent draft is pushing a year old. But we've identified those, and Muni code's recommendation is that we bring both forward next month, and the things that are missing to be a first supplement to the drafted code of ordinances. I did ask at the admin committee, we discussed the zoning ordinances. And so there's an item added to the Thursday zoning committee for them to discuss where the zoning ordinances are placed in the overall code. Courthouse renovation, I already updated on the contingency fund, but at this point, the original contract with the construction management firm with Myron was just over 8.6 million. At this point, there's been $3.1 million of work completed with pay orders submitted. So we have about 5.6 left. So things are moving along, and like the chairman said earlier, at this point, we are on time and on budget for where we had hoped to be. The turnover date is projected to be March 10th, which we get access to the new construction, and then they start remodeling like this room and the other existing areas. Items related to personnel and HR, union negotiations, we are scheduled to start those on December 16th. For those on the negotiating committee, we do have confirmation that that date is going to work. You may have noticed with the budget approval that there was no wage considerations or personnel plan included. We've been kind of holding that, anticipating union negotiations and trying to do that all at once. But we'll be bringing that to the December meeting regardless. So that can be approved as well. We're still slow filling vacancies in the jail. We have filled a couple. So the shift vacancies are down, but overall it does seem like hiring has improved marginally for all of our positions. With a little bit better applicant pool. Reviewing the county benefit package, this would be the non-wage items, looking for ways to improve that and improve it for our employees. And going forward now that some of the other projects are getting wrapped up, we're focusing on employee wellness and safety. I have a wellness day coming up on December 20th to focus on that for the employees, and then updating the safety manual and instituting a safety training schedule going into 2023. I'll be meeting with department heads roughly between now and the end of the year, maybe early in the next year. I'm not calling them evaluations, but at least we're going to sit down and do a department and a department head review. I'll be reaching out to the board, so if there's any issues or items you want me to address with department heads, please let me know. That's part of that process. Like was mentioned before, we are also working on the structure of ambulance and emergency management and implementing the medical examiner position and how those pieces will all work together. CJCC, we did receive the second payment for the opioid settlement, another 21,161. The WCA held a second opioid summit last week, and CJCC has heard from public health on some gaps, needs within the community to address the opioid issue. So they're getting closer to having some recommended uses of those funds. We did receive word that it's not final yet, but the state had approved our treatment and diversion grant for 2023 for a full $225,000. So the Justice Point, who we contract with, will be adding staff to get our treatment court fully functional the first of the year and continuing on diversion work. If you recall that having that up and running is all a part of the second courtroom and improving the, I guess, the flow of the incarcerated through the county and reducing our inmate numbers as well. Oasis building, the ADRC is in the process of moving down there now. It's getting close to being complete. So ADRC and the Veteran Service will be up and running in that building. We're still working to fill the receptionist assistant position between those two departments. The highway sign is up, and we'll be holding an open house at a later date to publicize that location. With the expansion of Justice Point, we'll be looking at office moves within this building. I think we've got a plan in place now that involves juggling some space between Justice Point, Child Support, and the Victim Witness Coordinator. And there's some potential future adjustments once the new construction is completed, because there'll be some space available in there. Budget, we've adopted the 23 budget, so tomorrow work starts in the 24 budget. Policy-wise, just keep on reviewing current policies and identifying gaps. So in development right now, we've got something that'll come back to the board, I think, next month to discuss contract reviews and signing of the contracts. So we have, it's I think, pretty vague as of right now. And then also an investment policy for the county, how the county money is invested. And then we do have, that's been mentioned a little bit, we have some outstanding items that we're working with LCO on. The child support MOU, the 161 agreement for child placements, ATV, UTV ordinance, and then the tribal law enforcement grant and agreement. So I expect all those to be wrapped up by the end of the year.
Great report. And our 21 audit was
good. Yeah.
Very good.
Mr. Kinsley said no, I mean, the numbers that we had projected internally were close to what the audit showed, and there was no material deficiencies or recommendations from the audit.
Wonderful. Who else? Mr. Kinsley.
Wait for the next item, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Anything else for Mr. Alvarado? Mr. Duffy?
What's the number of women we house down in Barron?
Right now, there's about 19.
And how many of those, if you know, are probation holds?
I don't know if I have the breakdown. We actually looked at those numbers last week. The number of our incarcerated, I mean, I'm just gonna use some rough numbers. So right now we have usually 80 to 90 people incarcerated. We have 19 females, or about 19 females in Barron, which actually isn't, head count wise, isn't much of a change. We were housing about that many in Barron already. So just, they're all females now. And then when you look at our incarceration report, usually it's like low teens, like 12, 13 are actually sentenced to jail. 60% are pre-sentence. And so let's say then about 20% are probation holds. That's where we're struggling. We've hired some males, but no females. Yep, we're still working on that.
Great. All right, anything else on the county administrator's report? Anybody online? Good there? Okay, next, correspondence, reports, conferences, meetings, Mr. Kinsley.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the Sawyer County Board, I'd like to pass on our condolences to Mr. Helwig. He lost his mother this last week. Thank you.
I would agree. Yep, you hear that, Mark?
Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Ron.
You bet. Absolutely.
Yes,
Anything
for
else?
the whole board.
If not, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
And you can leave your clickers there. Thank you for your patience. After next week's training, maybe we won't lose the grid again.